I wanted to ask Amin something because the Dolphins have given Bradley Chubb 5 years, $119 million, $62 million guaranteed. And Joe Banner, the former executive, says that Chubb is worth what the Dolphins gave up for him if he's healthy. That caveat, because 22 games he has missed the last 3 years. That's 7 a year. And Amin, as a front office executive, can you please help me understand when he says if he's healthy, and he's talking about Chubb and Tua. I know that guys being injured previously can help you with some probabilities about whether they're going to be injured in the future. But I just don't know how you throw the if he's healthy caveat with any predictive knowledge at football players when any of them can get hurt at any time, any moment. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I could say if he's healthy on every analysis I do on any player and any team in the league.
That's right. Yeah, it's not like basketball where we have players that are known to get hurt. Anthony Davis, Kawhi Leonard, those are the guys who are like, well, if you can stay healthy, you got a good chance, but that's a risk that you're baking in. Also, the other element in basketball that makes it more complicated is the contracts, by and large, are fully guaranteed. In football, everybody gets hurt and can get hurt at any time, including in practice, right? And B, the contracts, by and large, are not guaranteed. So I don't know the particulars.
They're giving him $62 million guaranteed.
Right. So, I mean, that's however, how long?
5 years.
All right. So when you let me use the David Sampson word. When you amortize that,
it's a tough one.
Yeah. So 12 million, 12 and change as a cap hit.
He's getting $119 million for 5 years. That's not guaranteed. Half of it is guaranteed.
But I'm saying as a cap hit on the downside.
It could turn into 3 years real quick.
It could. But Dan, even with the injury concerns, you still got to stockpile talent, right? They have to address needs. They felt like this was a good player for them to go get, even with the injury risk. I mean, you still have a very talented player for the next 5 years if he can stay healthy.
I'm not questioning it, and I'm not disputing it. I'm asking a former front office executive how the hell you do the equations on if he stays healthy in this sport.
You pray.
The sad part is my answer is probably just as good as Stugotz's, right? Because that's an element that I've never had to sit around and contemplate, right? The idea that they're all injury risks, every last one of them, right? And that's the part where, you ask yourself, how good my cap people are, how we are able to make things disappear or stretch or rearrange or get someone else to take a pay cut. Because ultimately, in a salary cap sport, every dollar devoted to something over here is one less dollar I can devote to something there, right? It's not whether Bradley Chubb is worth that money or not. It's I'm giving him this money. That means there's less money I can devote to other needs elsewhere. And if he can't play, then that is problematic.
I would love to see a report done on this, because the feeling that I kind of get, especially in that sport, because of the physical nature, because other body parts trying to overcompensate, and because of all the fast twitch stuff, generally hurt players stay hurt. You see it with J.J. Watt. You see it with Jadeveon Clowney. You have outliers. Right now, Saquon Barkley has been battling through a ton of injuries, and he's still out there every week, despite him having that label. Fred Taylor, early in his career, was a guy that got injured a ton, still ended up having a Hall of Fame career despite having nagging injuries. I just think in that sport, it is somewhat concerning if someone has an injury history. And right now, on both sides of the ball, as centerpieces, as potentially guys that are going to make the most money on our team down the line, you got Tua, who's got that injury history. You got Bradley Chubb, who's had a very uneven career because of the injuries.
You say uneven career, but this is the thing that makes this money well spent. Micah Parsons has a 32% pass rush win rate. Myles Garrett, 30%. Chubb, 27%. He's indisputably elite at winning, and you win a quarter of the time or a third of the time, you're winning at a pace that you have to give money for if you need a pass rush and want to get a pass rush with 4. They didn't give this money to Bradley Chubb. They invested $119 million in pass rush with 4. We are going to get pressure with 4 guys because we have this guy.
Because they feel good about the other side of the equation, which is Jalen Phillips, a second-round pick from the University of Miami, who's had some good moments, but could use not being the main focus of the opposing offensive line. And this is also a defense that is meant to have 2 elite corners operating at the same time. So in theory, they could still be a blitzing team, but so far they've been a blitzing team and it hasn't really worked because they don't have their star man corners in order to help them. So I do think that this defense has a real chance once they get fully healthy, but that's a question because we don't know if Byron Jones is going to be fully healthy. You mentioned hurt players stay hurt. Xavier Howard has actually been one of those players over the course of his career, and he's hurt now. So I think that this defense with Phillips and Chubb as your rushers, Jones and Howard as your corners, in theory, is an incredible pass defense.
You made that point yesterday. I think it comes down to the corners. It's great that they upgraded Bradley Chubb, who can help your pressure with 4. They were getting really good production out of Melvin Ingram and Agba earlier in the season, and it seems directly tied to those corners being injured. So I think it comes down to that. But it's a great move for Miami in that if you look at the AFC standings, you can make a solid argument that they're the 3rd best team in the AFC, and they needed to close the talent gap between them, Buffalo, and Kansas City. I heard Supatity. I think you kind of skimmed over the addition that Kansas City made with Kadarius Toney in that they can give him the Tyreek Hill playbook, and they've been struggling downfield with Mecole Hardman on those exact routes. So I like Miami. I think in a 1-game sample we saw last year, I mean, the Bengals won 2 games. They had no business winning. So anything can happen. You might as well increase the talent.